welcome. So this is a video on why MBTI is still used in the Objective Personality System, or OPS for short. It's by me, Habib, and my type is double masculine SETE, play consume sleep blast, otherwise known as an ESFP in MBTI. So today we're trying to explore why the Myers-Briggs type indicator is still used in the Objective Personality System. It's something that people often go to the forums and they don't understand, hey, why are we still calling things ENFJ, INTJ, if there are all these jumper types and all these different nuances to the 9 coins and stuff. This is hopefully going to answer a lot of those questions because people consistently, month after month, still ask the same question, and that's okay. But I think even those of us who know the answer, there's still a lot to be gained by exploring this question. Let's get into it. So the background of OPS in general, and also in conjunction with Myers-Briggs, is OPS uses 9 coins. That's how we get to the 512 type. The Myers-Briggs uses 4 coins to get to the 16 types. While there might be the 32 type system of MBTI, we're mainly sticking to the 16 original of the MBTI. There are 4 coins that are well defined and have been used consistently over time. And MBTI is extremely popular or well known compared to OPS. People pass around the online tests. A lot of people have taken it. A lot of people have maybe been exposed to it for maybe a few minutes or hours of their life. A lot of people do know what this is, at least way more than the Objective Personality System, which is, with 9 coins and 512 types. It's completely understandable that something as gargantuan and as recent a development as OPS is not as popular or well known as MBTI. I mean, we're really just getting started here, and it is more complex. So the MBTI has been mentioned, by celebrities, pop culture. Tests are easy to administer. There are a lot of ways to get tested on your MBTI type, both online and offline. There's certifications, there are companies, there are businesses that use it. It's pretty mature, right? And MBTI is actually, so not only is it well known, but it's the predecessor to OPS. So before objective personality could be created, we needed something like MBTI to get to this point. And so it's kind of the root. So Dave and Jan have built on top of this. The ideas of MBTI have influenced the understanding of the main experts of OPS. And I'm kind of talking about Dave and Jan, but honestly, anyone who ever gets good at understanding the system, they necessarily have to understand the Myers-Briggs type indicator, whether they respect it or not, like it or not. Feelings aside, the MBTI system still has a lot of the moving parts that you can find within the objective personality system. We remember there was a time when Dave first introduced the system, had been using MBTI, and discovered in his RC business that there are a lot of ISTJ. I think Shan was also part of that as well. So both Dave and Shan are looking at all these emails, and it's a flood of ISTJs. And it's like, hey, there's really something to this MBTI thing. Like, why am I so easily able to predict exactly what these people want? And they all want the same thing, the same SITE, ISTJ type things. And so they're really all fitting in the Myers-Briggs. So there's something there. But when you go to reproduce it, it's really difficult. And the whole story, I'm not going to get into that. What I'm really trying to reference here is, why is the Myers-Briggs relevant in spite of whether it's a predecessor or not, whether people like it or not? Why does it actually matter? The patterns that MBTI references are actually relevant in the OPS system. So that's what I will be showing today. And so just to go over what I'm going to talk about today, the outer letters within MBTI have significance. The I, E, J, and P types. The inner letters also have significance, which are like the NF, SF, ST, and NT types. And the grant stack actually matters in OPS. So these are all aspects of the MBTI, and we'll also see how the entire 16 archetypes does fold into the 512. So that's the main thesis of today, is just kind of go over these 3 different areas within MBTI and relate them to OPS and show you how the objective personality system is still using the Myers-Briggs as a core, and even if you wanted to get rid of it, you really couldn't. You can't, as long as this is a system you're using. So we have the I types and the E types. There are similarities between the I types and there are similarities between the E types. First, we'll go over the IJ and the IP types. So the IJ and the IP types have the same consume and blast. And what do I mean by this? It means that the consume is going to have the DI function before the OE function in both cases. So looking at an example with an INTJ and an ISFP, we see that the FI is coming before the SE in both cases. Even though an INTJ can have both FI and SE as a daemon, it's still in the same order. So they're filtering their consume through their identity function. So it's not the same type of consume as an EP or EJ type. And the same goes with the blast. When an ISFP tries to blast, it is coming from the understanding before it goes to the tribe. So the NI is before the TE. And so when it comes to the information, the I types are the same. Here's an abstract example. So whether you're jumping or not, the self function is before the gather function, right? For a consume, and the organized function is before the tribe function, right? For the blast. So we have the EJ and the EP type, and these also share the same consume and blast, if you would guess. And here's an example with SEFI. So they both have SEFI, whether it's a demon or savior, it's still in that order. And you have the same for TE and NI with the blast. The TE is before the NI. It's not NITE blast, it's TENI blast. So what, for example, I'm blasting as an EP is what I've determined from the tribe, from all the things I've gathered among the tribe, that is, from all the perspectives of the tribe, I've distilled down an NI. The understanding is coming from what I'm talking about with the tribe. It's not that the understanding comes before me going out to the tribe, like the IPs and the IJs. So there are a lot of qualitative examples that you can probably think of through this, but I'm just walking through the theory. That's the whole point of this video, is just to walk you through the theory. There are a lot of qualitative energy dominant examples you can kind of go through. I'm not going to be doing that today. Yeah, so yep, TENI. Okay. So I types and E types, again, the IJs and the IPs, they have the introverted functions in the top three. So continuing, there's another pattern of the I types and the E types where they share something similar. And so whether you're sleep last or not, you're always going to have your introverted functions in your top three in your stack. So an abstract example is the sleep first, they have the OI, DI, or even the sleep last, they have the DI and OI. They have those in the top three. The EJ and EP types, your extroverted functions will always be in the top three. So if you're an ENTJ or an ESFP, whether you're a jumper or not, your extroverted functions cannot be fourth. You cannot have any extroverted function fourth. And so you're going to have all the extroverted functions in the top three. And so it's easier to, relate with each other on that level. Okay, so we have the J types and the P types. Again, we're going to see a lot of commonalities here. So with the IJs and the EJs, take Dave and Shan, for example, we have an example with the INTJ and ENTJ, the same play and sleep. So the energy will match between J types. So you'll have the tribe function before the gather function. And you'll have the organized function before the self function. Here's the abstract example, and it works out. So you can pause the video and look at it yourself. Just going through the theory here. The P types now with perception, um, the same play and sleep. So if I'm hanging out with an IP type, we'll have the same play and sleep. So my SE is before the TE, and even the ISFP will also have the SE before the TE. And we both will have the FI before the NI. So when it comes to organize, we're going to go through our identities first before we organize anything. It has to be based on our self standards. Again, with J and P types, so with J and P types, we have the IJ and EJ. We have the OI and DE functions in the top three. So the blaster functions are always going to be in the top three functions. It also means that the consume functions will be in the bottom three. So here's an abstract example. With the EPs and IPs, the consume functions will be in the top three, and the blaster functions will be in the bottom three. So what does this mean? It basically means that consume is natural for the P types and blast is natural for the J types. Now we have the NF, ST, SF, and NT types. So we're moving forward, and this is the second thing in MBTI. So all of these different letter combinations, will have those letters in their top three functions. And you'll have the opposite in the bottom three automatically. So now we see that the NF types do have their NF high in their grand stack, whether it's an INFP or an ENFJ, and they'll have ST low in their grand stack. And we're going to get into the grand stack. But just know that NFs are NF and NFs are not ST. And the same follows for all of the different letter combinations. Right. And now moving on to some of these different 16 personalities things, right? So they did catch on to the NT and NF types, but they did something a little weird. And we're going to look at that a little bit. So they're right about the NT NF in 16 personalities website or whatever, but they're doing something else which some people seem to not understand. What are these SJ and SP types? Technically, you can have NJ and NP types as well. So SPs are SE in the top three, SJs are SI in the top three, guaranteed, even within the objective personality system. And so it seems like the Myers-Briggs people, they're kind of biasing for the sensors to be more cognizant of their sensing function. Now, I'm not sure what that means there, but technically you can do the other side of it. So NP and NJ, and that's something to look into. The NJs would be NI in the top three, NPs would be NE in the top three. And so, yeah. Anyway, when people give messy explanations that are not, super clean, then you get all these weird, criticisms. All right. So without further ado, we can go into the grand stack. And so this is one of the more fun or interesting parts of MBTI that impact the objective personality system. So take myself and look at how, I have SETE, but I still have FI second in a way, right? So in my grand stack order, my FI is still strong. I may not be using it. Even if I were sleep last, the FI is still there. It's just you may not be visiting it as much. With the other side, where you have SEFI both as savior functions in OPS, it's a bit more natural. And your strong arm is the dominant arm, right? Versus the strong arm not being the dominant arm. It's a good visual to get a look at the function sizes. This is really a thing, and so it does help to see that these are basically the same types. We are both SEFI, right? I have SE first, and I have FI second, just like the standard ESFPs. Just like the non-jumping ESFPs, I also have SE and FI in my top two function stack. Okay, so looking at some of these grant stacks, we have the IJ and IP types, the introverts, and then we have the EP and EJ types, the extroverts. And you could pause the video and look at your own grant stack if you know what your type is. And they have names for it. And there's probably something to all of this. Do we get into it in the objective personality system? Maybe not, but it is something to look at, and it can give you a further nuanced view of your whole personality type. In the grand stack, we follow our functions in the appropriate order. So SETE, even if I had consume last, it's still SEFI. Even if I'm not activating that FI until my third animal, I still have SEFI. So myself with SETE, play, consume, sleep, yes, I'm still SEFI. My FI is still greater than my TE. It's not a savior. It's not a savior. FI is not a savior, but it's still the second function. And that has its own implications, right? So I've met an INTJ who has blast last, and they still felt like NITE. In their life story, they still feel like a standard INTJ. They're blast last not doing anything, but they're still an INTJ. And we all know a TESE person who has blast last, they still would have, so Shan is still TENI. NI is still her second function. As much as she can relate to my pain with having NI fourth, she doesn't really have that weak of an NI. It's pretty good. It's pretty strong. It's not her weakest function, even though she has it as a demon. Yeah, we have TINI, and these are still, for example, ISTPs. Even if you're consume last, TINI, your SE is still going to be strong. Even if you're consume last, play last, you're still going to have SE pretty good. You're not going to be struggling with it. Your NI is not going to be the strongest, and all that. Continuing on, what I'm trying to say here is that you still have strength in your overarching archetype. If you're an ESFP, you're still an ESFP. If you're an ISTP, you're still an ISTP, whether you're jumping or not. ENTJs are ENTJs, etc. So the archetype, the archon. And if you're a jumper or glass lizard, good luck, because it really does impact you. This grant stack aspect of the theory does impact you, especially for the jumpers. So looking at the 16 types or archetypes, there are so many possibilities of who you could be, right? Within that specific archetype, there are 32 different kinds of ESFPs, for example, right? There are 32 different kinds of ENTJs, but at the same time, there is a more macroscopic archetype to how life is going for these people. In the micro, if you catch them sentence by sentence, you can see the nuance, the full nuance of the objective personality system's type, the 512. But in the macroscopic level, you have these more full stories and narratives, core types within the 512. And you can essentially boil it down to the 16. So the overview is that Myers-Briggs is not wrong. The outer letters still have significance in objective personality. The I, E, J, and P types are the same. In terms of the I types are the same with each other. The E types are the same with each other. The J types are the same with each other. The P types are same with each other, right? So the I types are the same as other I types, and so on and so forth. The P types are same as the other P types. That's what I'm saying here. And the inner letters within MBTI have significance within objective personality. All the NFs are NFs, etc. The grant stack actually matters in the objective personality system. All the 32 different variations of the 16 types. So there are 32 ISFJs, for example, they are still following an MBTI thing. They are still sharing an MBTI archetype. Yeah, and here when I say the same, I mean that it's a similar pattern. Okay, it's NI. Okay, the so an ESFP is an ESFP is an ESFP. Whether it's OPS or MBTI, it's still an ESFP. It's still an E type, a P type, an SF type, an SP type, an ESFP. So there you have it. So an INTJ is an INTJ in Ops, is an INTJ in MBTI, is an I type, is a J type, is an NT type, is a NJ type, is an INTJ. So 512 types, I don't know about that. The 16 types are valid. The 512 builds on the 16. So we can view the 16 types as simply lacking nuance, right? The issue originally was typing accurately is hard. And with greater nuance, it's easier to track and put a microscope into figuring out exactly what's going on with the human. It's more precise, it's more accurate, it's more differentiated on a smaller scale. So the 512 becomes 16 core types. I'll be the first one to tell you, you can go from 512 to way higher than that, but we're now talking about simplification. So 512 types can be boiled down into these 16 core types. So you have my NI stamp of approval. If anyone doesn't really understand this, you could send them to this video. I mean, it's long, but it has the answers for why MBTI matters and how to boil everything down into a more essential element. So you stay in objective personality for the SE nuance, and you leave for NI simplicity and essence. So if you really want things to be simple and ignorance is bliss kind of thing, like you do not need 9 coins or 512 types. If the archetype is enough for you, see this as a sign for, you can leave and know that, hey, if you see yourself as an ESFP, that might be enough for you. If you see yourself as an INTJ and that's enough for you, you don't need to know that you're a sleep blast. You don't need to know that you're a blast last INTJ. Then that's good enough. Whatever you need to go from point A to point B. So if you don't want to know yourself on a deep level, that is okay. I'm trying to create space for, you don't need to know yourself on that precise a level to get moving in life. So this has been a video on why MBTI is still used in objective personality system. It's still MBTI at its core. It layers on top of MBTI, and you have 4 coins of the Myers-Briggs. You have the jumper theory. You have the 2 animals, and 2 coins for animals, and you have 2 coins for the modalities. That's the FF, MF, FM, and MM, kinesthetic tester, all that stuff. And that gives you the 9 coins. Myself, I'm double masculine, right? So that's the modalities. So here, I mean MBTI being MBTI plus the grant function stack, because that's part of the theory. And the animals are, I did a video on the ambivert omnivert coin, and I'll link it here. And the info energy. So that's how you get to the animals in 2 coins. Because if you're using all these weird ghetto coins, you're not going to get to 9 coins. You're going to get to 10 coins. We don't want 10 coins, we want 9 coins. If you want 9 coins, use the ambivert omnivert coin. That's, I think, the best way for you to get there. So further simplifying this, we can reduce the jumper theory back into the animals. So basically 3 coins to get the animals, right? After you have the MBTI type, and then you have the modalities, right? And so it's basically, is it jumper or standard? And you could basically reduce all those animals or modalities to just Dave and Chan. So Dave and Chan plus MBTI equals those 9 coins. Yeah. All right. So this has been a deep dive on why MBTI is still used in the objective personality system. I hope it has been helpful. Hope it answers questions. A lot of people come around not knowing why MBTI is still being talked about in the objective personality system, but it gives people, I think, room to build a narrative and a core story at a macroscopic level. And this is what I see as the kernel of where the nuance that is 512 personalities has come from. Thank you for watching, and click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.